Good day there, Wealth Press and Midas Letter subscribers, viewers, traders, and investors. I've got a special guest today, Mr. Kyle Detwiler, CEO of Cleaver Leaves Holdings, Inc., recently trading on the NASDAQ under the symbol CLVR, joins me today. Kyle, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Kyle. So let's start with an overview of Cleaver Leaves. What is the sort of footprint of the company? What's the business? And how'd you get started?
Yeah, Cleaver Leaves is a multinational operator in the cannabis space. We're a B2B focused company. We're probably best known for being one of the largest producers in Colombia. We also have a cannabis cultivation facility in Portugal, which has become all the rave lately. We have some cannabis importation businesses in Germany, and then a nutraceutical operation based in Phoenix, Arizona, which sells non-cannabinoid products to the US. So we've got about 500 employees globally. We would consider ourselves one of the largest medical cannabis producers on the planet. And we've raised, prior to, I guess, including our initial public offering, we've raised about $210 million of capital. So it's pretty exciting. This is the first day as a NASDAQ listed business. I guess Friday technically was the first day. So that's the overview of Cleaver Leaves.
Sure, you guys have been really flying under the radar then, because to build such a big footprint, and I mean, I've heard rumors of you, but I haven't really had a chance to get to know the company at all. What was the attraction about merging with the special purpose acquisition corp called Schultz?
Well, I think you probably hit one of the nails on the head, which is I think we were a very under the radar business. You know, we were very focused. We were building a business. It took a while to create what we did, and now I think it's time to step into the daylight a bit. So we looked at various different methods for growing the company. Staying private was one option, but for a variety of reasons we decided to go public. But probably the most significant reason was it was an opportunity to raise a significant amount of cash. I think it would have been very difficult to do private capital raises to bring in $80-90 million like we just did. So that's probably the primary reason we did it. And it was also traded on the NASDAQ as a fully federally compliant business, backed by a former U.S. Senate Majority Leader, Senator Tom Daschle. We've tried to do things as perfectly and as clean as we can, and the NASDAQ was the perfect fit for that.
Wow, you bet. So you grow in greenhouses in Colombia and sell your product primarily to other LPs?
Yeah, that's right. LPs, that can include Canopy Growth. They began to outsource their Latin American production to us, but we also have commercial partners in Europe, Israel, Australia, and other partners in Latin America, probably the most significant of which are in Brazil.
Is that right, eh? And your greenhouses, are they in and around the traditional rose growing area in Bogota?
Yeah, they are. About 75% of roses grown in Colombia are grown in what's called the Bogota Savanna, which is kind of this, alluvial plain, I guess, to the, north and northwest of the city. And so we're about 3 hours from downtown Bogota by car, maybe about 45 minutes by plane.
Yes, I've been to Colombia several times looking at various cannabis operations. It's a beautiful country. It's just amazing that. So it's really transformed. People hear Colombia and they immediately get this crazy, sort of tension about investing in Colombia because it's Colombia. But it's changed 180 degrees from what it used to be back in the early 2000s, hasn't it?
Yeah, completely agree. I spent a lot of my career investing in Latin America, Brazil, Colombia, other parts of Central America. I find, Bogota and Colombia in general to actually be, more promising in some respects than some of those other geographies. But I think relative to, what was going on in the country 30, 40 years ago, cannabis being a good example, I think the country has taken a very disciplined approach to its growth, and is creating an interesting opportunity here with cannabis. So I think out of all of the places in Latin America, I think it's the one I'm the most comfortable investing in, and it's a great place to be.
Sure. Is Cleaver Leaves a profitable company at this point?
Not yet. We are working. There are parts of the company which are profitable, but as an enterprise, it takes a long time. We've been at this for 4 years. We're the only Latin American cannabis company which has an EU GMP certification. But one of the first lessons that we learned in the pharmaceutical trade is everything takes a bit longer than you expect. We received that GMP certification in July of 2020. We probably won't have our first material sales from that until the end of the first quarter, or maybe even in the second quarter of 2021. So 4 years to get the certification, another 9 months to generate revenue. Those are the types of cycles we're on. Now, the trade-off for that, of course, is the revenue is stickier, higher margin. There are fewer people that do what we do. So there's just a trade-off with that.
Right. The future of medical cannabis sort of merges itself rather succinctly with the biotech industry and with big healthcare. How are you positioning Cleaver Leaves to sort of merge with that science as it advances?
And I think this is probably one of the most interesting things about the industry is, 2 to 3 years ago, if you were Merck or Pfizer or a large European pharmaceutical company, if you wanted to get into cannabis, your options were to work with, most likely a Canadian licensed producer who had developed those operations and wanted to co-promote its products. Tilray wants to sell Tilray products. But today, because a company like Cleaver Leaves exists, which is solely focused on a B2B approach, the conversations that we can have with the large pharmaceutical companies is that, hey, we can save you, the 4 years to get a cannabis license, get it GMP certified, get all of your products registered and validated, and get what they call stability tests. We are a B2B enabler. We happen to sell you an API, which is a controlled substance, but it can help accelerate your entrance into the industry. You don't have to worry about building a supply chain that took 4 years. So the conversations that we have are with new companies, new pharmaceutical businesses that have been looking at cannabis for a while, but wanted to wait for the right moment, the right supplier to enter. And I think Cleaver Leaves can be that solution. So hopefully in the next year, we're going to have a couple of announcements on that front.
Sure. Is your expectation that the United States market will allow for the importation of medical cannabis from Colombia?
If the answer was yes, Cleaver Leaves would probably be a more valuable company than it is today. We are certainly hoping. We are trying everything we can. I think as a personal, my social viewpoint is that, the more product, the more consumer choice, the more medical focus, the better the patients will be. Competition is good for them. So from a social perspective, I want it to happen, but I'm a realist. I understand that, we are the first company in Colombia to ever export cannabis. We sent it to Canada a couple of years ago, but, we haven't yet been able to bring in commercial product because health regulators want to take their time. They want to make sure the supply chain is secure. They also want to make sure what they're doing is legal, since medical cannabis is not federally legal in the United States. That's not an act that we can engage in. But Biden won the election. And one of the planks of the Democratic ticket when he was, as he was campaigning, was to legalize cannabis for medical purposes at the federal level. If that happens, it's not crazy that Cleaver Leaves product could be sold at a CVS or a Walgreens in the United States, and that would be, nothing would make me happier.
You bet. Do you see the election of Biden-Harris and their stance on medical cannabis legalization as something that will make other countries more amenable to opening the doors to medical cannabis industries, especially as it pertains to import and export opportunities?
100%. One of the first things that happened, I think it was a week after the media started to announce that Senator Biden was now president-elect, Israel announced plans to launch a recreational program within about 9 to 12 months. Because of the foreign aid and dependency on the United States that Israel has, the rumors were that the Trump administration was not interested in having Israel become an exporter of cannabis a couple of years ago, but because the administration in the White House was shifting, I think Israel felt a bit more intrepid. We could also look to the United Nations, which just a couple of weeks ago had a very historic vote and helped to reschedule cannabis and acts like that. I mean, the U.S. is an example of the movement that is sweeping the world. It's also a catalyst in and of itself, and so I think you're starting to see that come to fruition.
Sure. Your company, by virtue of the fact that it basically stayed non-public and therefore somewhat unknown, has nonetheless been able to build a business with significant sort of tentacles in many countries and with substantial revenue. Tell me about your revenue picture and how it's going to build out over the next 12, 24 months.
Yeah, so in 2020, we anticipate generating about 12 to 13 million US of revenue. I remind people, 2020 was a very painful year. And if you thought it was bad in the United States when they were closing retail locations, it was very tough on the American employee. In Colombia, they also banned, or not banned, I should say, they shut down air cargo flights. So imagine for 4 years, we had prepared this engine. We're about to send our first six-figure orders to Israel and Australia, and then they shut down the airlines.
Right.
So it was a tough blow for us. We survived, but in 2021, hopefully we will not have to deal with those. That will lead to growth. I mentioned earlier that we have a GMP certified product that will begin to sell. That's a much higher price point, and it's to whole new markets. So that's going to increase our growth. And also in August of 2020, we became one of the few companies in the continent of Europe to have a licensed operation in Portugal. And just like everything in this industry, it takes another 9 months. So we will probably have our first sales from Portugal maybe in Q1, maybe Q2 of next year. But that is another growth leg for us. So I think if you kind of combine all those things, the future and the growth rate that Cleaver Leaves is going to experience in 2021 should be significant.
Sure. And how significant is the Latin American medical cannabis opportunity for Cleaver Leaves?
Well, it's a bit of a big fish in little pond. Latin American purchasing power is a bit lower than Western Europe or Canada, the United States. The markets are also newer. Brazil is probably the biggest opportunity today, 210 million possible patients, but a legislative or regulatory framework that has just begun. So our largest contracts are actually in Brazil. A couple of weeks ago, we announced our largest contract to date. It's a $4 million take-or-pay contract to a company called Green Care in Brazil. It's just for a single product. So as we introduce more products, I think we'll be able to grow. But the Brazilian market is very pharmaceutical. It's very different than how kind of Americans or Canadians think about a dispensary-based distribution. It's all oils. They ban domestic production, and everything has to be GMP certified. So that really raises the bar for companies to get in. Now, fortunately, Cleaver Leaves has met all those bars. It will take time to process, get our products registered, but I think Brazil is going to be a very, very fantastic opportunity. And I think very few companies are frankly chasing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what is your timeline to profitability globally then?
Yeah, we're targeting to be profitable by the end of next year.
Oh, okay, great. All right. Well, that's awesome. How many shares are outstanding in Cleaver Leaves at this point after the merger?
Yeah, that's a good question. We just completed our SPAC transaction. So I to give you the exact number, I'd probably want to go back and look at our exact financial statements, because there's a lot of, we have warrants, we have some earnout shares, we have our common shares outstanding. So let me refer people to our investor relations website to get the exact specifics.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's great, Kyle. So then what are the main catalysts for Cleaver Leaves going forward 6, 12, 18 months?
Yeah, I think our expansion of our business in Brazil is going to be important. I think we're working on some very big contracts there. So, we might have some more announcements. I think the other thing is, remember, Cleaver Leaves is, one of the largest companies in Latin America, but you really haven't started to see the establishment of supply routes from Colombia to places like Germany and Australia of robust scale. We just sent our first EU GMP certified product from Colombia, manufactured in Colombia, and then sent to Germany. We had to get the pipes to work. And so now, in 2021, you'll start to see the buyers for those products, be announced, come online and start selling. And then I also think that, we're all eyes on the United States. if the U.S. begins to initiate a legalization program and it provides a channel for Cleaver Leaves to bring product in, complete game changer to what we're doing.
You bet. All right, Kyle. Well, that's a great introductory conversation. Let's leave it there for now. We'll come back to you in due course and see how you're making out. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, James. Excited to be here.
You bet. Bye for now.